The Merry Pranksters, Chapter 15, Episode 2. "Hey man, relax," Colin says, holding his hand down low as the officer steps out of the patrol car. "Don't worry," he whispers. "I've done worse." The scene ends with only one of the boys exhaling a sigh of relief. After that, a montage of images begin to strobe in and out as Ozzy's Bark at the Moon plays at full volume. My mother grows thinner while Colin and I flash through a sequence of seasons. As our clothes become ragged, our hair grows longer, and our minds become more confused. "Hey kid," Colin says with all the raging insanity of a box of dead flowers. "I've been tripping for years at this point. I just need you to know, I'm not crazy, all right? These messages I get, they come from some dark places, but that doesn't make them wrong." He gulps, looks around nervously. "Things get crazy out there, man. Out past the universe. Way out there, things get twisted, and you don't always come back the same person you were. The crazy thing is, though, kid, is that it's all around us. The darkness. It's everywhere, but people don't see it. Angels and devils, brother, they're lurking around every corner of your heart, every shadow of your mind. People think it's somewhere else, somewhere out there, elusive, like it's just out of reach, but they're blind, man. They just can't see, or don't want to see, that it's already sunk its fangs deep into their necks." Colin had a talent for making loose connections weave together seamlessly in a way that was almost convincing. He spoke often about what they wanted, as if they were an organized agency without ever saying exactly who they were. Whether it was he who was eavesdropping on them or they who were tracking Colin seemed to change with the weather. One moment, they needed him to test the number of times a single match was capable of burning human flesh. The answer is 2, but I let him believe it was more like 4 or 5. In the next moment, he would feel compelled to expel the evil spies from the house by tossing the wickedness out the front door onto the lifeless, frozen lawn. "Begone, devil!" he would exclaim, cackling and pointing a crooked finger at me like a wild joker. "May you freeze in hell! Ha! Hell hath frozen over!" When I came to hours later, I was buried in a thin blanket of freshly fallen snow. The straps holding me to the gurney felt hot against my arms. I remember a scene in the ambulance where a young EMT told me my lips were as blue as icicles and that my heart wasn't beating. After a few blank slides flip by, a scene in a doctor's office begins to play. Sitting behind a thickly upholstered leather desk, a distinguished doctor is explaining to our frail mother that, though my hair-pulling and schizophrenic adjacent delusions were concerning, it did not pose an imminent danger. The severity of Colin's violent condition was far more urgent, he insisted. Colin's hallucinations surrounding reptilian government agencies communicating with him through the CBs on the Dukes of Hazzard, commanding him to carry out their evil agenda on his little brother needs to be addressed in a more structured, highly supervised facility. After Mom died, I went to visit Colin one Christmas. He looked pale and soulless. He said he was staying out of trouble, then laughed when he added he no longer had a choice. The fire was all but extinguished from his eyes, leaving him a hollow shell of his former self. When we were hugging goodbye, he told me, "I always thought we could die for our sins, but I never thought I'd be forced to bear this cross for all eternity." When the scene ends and the screen fades to black, the metal projector reel continues to spin and the film cycles around and around, flapping like a whip until it comes to its final stop. As the years passed, it got easier to stop pretending I would ever go back to see my brother again. Sharp afternoon winds strike at my cheek while fleeing the ivy-filled campus with my head held down, cursing the leaves along the cobblestone path for dying. After crossing the street, I lost track of the stone I had been kicking for the last mile through the ghetto when I turned the corner. As if being pulled by a cosmic red thread, the stone rolls across Lombard through Encanto Park before being swallowed by the dark of the forest. Squinting to follow the stone, a faint purple glow, as dull as a hand grenade, lay pulsating through the brush. Though I know somewhere deep down that the glow must be my Hercules disc and that it will not continue calling out to me forever, I keep walking, convinced that there will be a next time. Climbing the steps up to the porch, I mistake a chunk of fallen sky for a raindrop. When I see the front door swinging idly open, all the remaining pieces of my world come crashing down in a biblical flood of terror and shredded Italian leather. Cautiously easing the red door open with the toe of my shoe, the first thing I notice is my starburst fender strat sticking out of a jagged hole in the Samsung television like Excalibur wedged tightly in the stone. Our living room, once vibrant and sparkling, has been reduced to a heap of smoldering ashes. Gutted Armani upholstery, broken glass, and guitar strings lay vulgarly scattered along the floor. At a passing glance, the vandals could have been anyone. Certainly any one of the many tentacles stemming from the Irish Mafia, extending out to the oldest, hottest new cover band in St. Louis, or any number of tolerant, bloodthirsty protesters could be the culprit. Hell, we could have offended Megumi's Yakuza allies in any number of culturally insensitive ways. But it's like Fooky was saying, there aren't many people we haven't pissed off. It's not until I zoom in closer and see the attention to detail that a picture begins to come into focus. The broken pieces of the crystal ashtray, arranged in the shape of a broken heart, offer a clue that cuts the list of suspects down significantly. The broken pool cue, snapped in half, honestly doesn't help narrow the list down in any way, but the unmistakable way my instruments have been singled out, while Hank's drum set and Dicky's Les Paul were spared, cuts the list down to 2, possibly 3 females. Only when I look up to see the writing on the wall is the identity of the villain revealed. Graffitied across the living room in bold scarlet letters, "Don't stick your dick in my friends," is still dripping down the wall in fresh red spray paint. My tongue slides across the bottom of my mouth until settling heavily on the side of my cheek. Of all the thoughts racing through my mind, the only words that materialize end up sounding more like a prayer than a swear until, squinting at a shining metallic object protruding from the crack in the wall, I ask myself, is that a motherfucking Chinese star? As I stood shaking my head at the destruction, an involuntary chuckle escaped, as if only to point out there's a part of this that's kind of badass. I was just about to stop pacing the floor when I heard Dicky's Durango pull in the driveway. His eyes grow wide when he removes his shades to soak in the empire of destruction, while Hank's narrow like a predator. If he truly took no pleasure in saying, "I told you so," then he wouldn't be repeating it with such glee. Dicky sniffs like a trapper as if he's found the scent and steps over the polar bear rug to touch the red spray paint dripping down the wall. He turns, scans the room, and asks Hank, "Do you still have that Irish cat's gun?" While Hank disappears, Dicky carefully lifts a bottle of Jameson from the rubble between his thumb and forefinger, takes a swig, and passes it to me. Hank walks back in the living room, cocking the nickel-plated Glock 30, repeating the familiar refrain, "Schultz, I tried to tell you, those bitches are nothing but trouble." When I tell him, "I know, man, you should tattoo that on your forehead," I feel the burning of 2 sets of eyeballs judging me from across the room, and it's then I remember that I never had the chance to tell them the truth about last night. Guys, you're not going to believe this. I say, holding up both hands neutrally, alternating eye contact to ensure I have their attention. But it's true.